Hello everyone, welcome to part 4 of my Gilded Monogram Wreath series. I'm going to start off with showing you, I'm just practicing with my greens here on a few bees that I printed and drew out. I think these ones were printed actually on the scan and cut machine. And then I'll get into painting the actual bee, and I'll give you some tips along the way as well, but most of the video I'll just speed up because it was like an hour long, so I'll speed it up to 4 times and I'll just let you watch that. Okay, I'll show you my favorite greens that I like using. I've used them in 3 or 4 paintings now for an initial. I just really like these colors together. So, and someone also asked, a commenter, how I separated my Magello Mission colors from getting dirty. So I just made a key here and I taped that onto the top, and as you can see there's like 1/2 inch of space there. So it does prevent it from getting dirty, but I also cut out this piece of watercolor paper and I just keep it there like that to keep it as a barrier between there. So the colors that I use for the initials are, I'll tell you about these in a second, but these are the Kuretake Gansai Tambi colors, and I take them out and I just leave them in here when I'm working on a painting. So the greens are number 56, number 59, number 52, and 53. And then I like using this yellow color, number 40. It's a very bright lemon yellow for highlights in the green. Sometimes I like, if it gets too cool, I like to pop a little bit of that in the center. This one is yellow green. And then my other favorite one is right here. It's Hooker's Green. I love this one for my letters, which is this one right here. One of my favorite colors. So that's those are the greens that I use, that I'm going to be using on this letter B, and I've been using on the letter D. Okay, so before I attempt doing the actual bee on the final paper, I practiced painting it beforehand. That's a wise practice because you want to make sure, get to know your subject and know what colors you're using and just have a practice run. So here's an example of, I'm using that yellow color, or it's the yellow green in the Magello Mission, but I think it's the Kuretake yellow 40, number 40. And I'm just glazing. You see how the base color green is cool, but I'm glazing on that yellow in other parts, and you'll see it right here. You'll see how it gives it just this glow, and what that's gonna do as well is make it really have continuity when it's gilded, when those center parts are gilded with 24 karat gold. Okay, so what I'm doing here in the practice run is, as you can see, I'm taking that dark green and I'm just floating it on the areas where there's going to be there's a shadow, and that obviously the top ribbon of the bee where it's lighter is crossing over that part, and it really gives the illusion of a ribbon, and it's like 3D. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tell you my techniques mostly in this beginning stage, and then I'll just let you watch the sped up video, sped up 4 times later, and just let the video play, unless I really have something special to say. But I use the same technique over and over. I also dab spots off like that with a cotton, and it gives it a real mottled look. So I keep doing the same thing over and over. I emphasize the shadows. I warm it up with a yellow glaze. And then sometimes I dab off some of the paint to give it a mottled look, and other times I dab in a little bit of water to give it a mottled look as well. So here I'm about to paint the final bee, and I'm just showing the 3 Kuretake colors of the greens and that hooker's green a little bit. I think I pointed to the Viridian there sometimes, but I didn't use it. I also swatched out the greens here again to make sure those were the ones I wanted to use, and I'm using the same ones, the hooker's green and the Kuretake ones. And so I'm going to start painting the actual bee now on the final watercolor paper. And you can see I have it drawn out, and I have a few areas there where I've indicated where I want it to be gilded. I'm using this small little palette. It's my little special Japanese fugu fish inkwell that I got. It. I think it's one of a kind, otherwise I'd leave a link for you guys. But it was a special like rare purchase thing. So anyway, enjoy watching the me paint this bee, and right now I'm just getting my paints together. I'm just you know, getting a nice pools of paint in that little palette so that I don't have to keep going back into the Magella Mission one. So I'm mixing a watery paint mix inside my little palette there with 4 colors, and then near the end, that's when I put in the yellow and I warm it up. Sometimes I dab some yellow in there while it's still wet too, because that helps with the mottled look. And I'm very sorry for the video quality of the light here. I actually have a lot of light, and it should be really good, but I guess there's something going on with my iPhone that is washing it out like that. So it's not that whole way through the whole video, but there are parts of it, so I hope you can forgive that. But the good thing is you can still watch me paint. And I think right there I held up my paintbrush, and that's just lower price size 6 round. So what I like to do is basically start with my lights, and I drop in either clear water or a very light green color. First I drop in my greens and wet the paper basically. It's either a very light green or pure water. And then I go in after that with my mid-tone color, my mid-green, and drop that into the wet and sort of let it model out, let it you know, seep into the paper in its own way. And then after I do that, basically that's when I go in with the dark like this here and let it seep in. So you have to you can't wet the whole thing and then go in with a light color and then a medium tone all over. You have to work in sections like this, as you can see. Because if you want to take advantage of the paint going into the fibers of the paper and creating that kind of organic, modelly look, you have to do it while the paper is in a state of moisture. If I was to wet the whole bee, then it would be dry by the time I went back to do a dark, basically. So you'll see that's what I'm doing. I'm working in sections like this. So I'll just take a minute to mention this to you. My videos are not monetized, and I spend a lot of time doing this because I want to help out the art community. But I do have affiliate links in to Amazon, and I have so few links that I could just ask you, if you care to buy anything that I'm using in any of my videos, just click one of my links to get you there, and it gives me a tiny little commission. I have very few links, so it's really not much, but I just can't monetize my videos at this time. But every teeny tiny little bit helps. If you want to buy something on Amazon, just click one of my links to do it. Thanks so much. Another thing I forgot to mention was you can see where I drew in the center of the ribbons of the bee, that punched out area and the little circles there. Those are the areas I'm going to be gilding with gold. And I'm going to be doing raised gilding, which is different than flat gilding. It's a little more difficult. You have to raise up the gesso or whatever medium Instacol you're using. And I did a lot of practicing with that. It was not an easy process. And on this bee, I used a different process because I didn't have Instacol or Miniatum, which I did end up getting from John Neal bookseller later for my father's monogram wreath, which you can go check out that video. It's already posted. It's in masculine colors, and that I used proper Instacol raising, gilding, sizing. Whereas with this one, I actually made my own gesso, and it was the first time I've ever done it, so it took me a long time, and I was basically learning as I went and making mistakes, and but it turned out beautifully. Actually, it could be said it's prettier than my father's wreath. I think it might just be, though, because the bee is bigger and the gilding, the areas of gold are actually larger than the one on my father's. My father's wreath has a W and an E standing for William Edward, and this is a B for Barbara, who's actually my father's sister, my aunt. I'm gonna jump back into real-time painting here so you can see how long this process actually takes. Okay, I'm back into real-time mode again, and right now I'm making decisions as to which of the ribbons are going under and over, and I just applied the technique there to take a little bit of the green off because I felt it was too much with my paper towel. So, you know, you can always just dab that and take some off, and that will help with the mottled look. And there's lots of re-wetting and dropping in color and this and that, but I did already make the decisions of which ribbons will go over and under. Like obviously this one I'm painting now, that big swoosh with the middle being gold, will go over. And then there's a little bit of, it's not Celtic knots, but it's that Celtic knotwork look of going, you know, over and under in this area here. That's why I wanted to say something about it. So I'm just deciding where to put the shadows, and I end up coming in the very end and dropping in much darker shadows, and that really emphasizes the over and under ribboning. Okay, I hope you guys appreciate this. Because you're my art family, I made the conscious choice to not spin this around, and you know how it's easier if you spin your page around and you can pull your, you know, your paint down and around a corner, and it's just easier that way. Well, I tried to keep it, I'm tilting it, but I didn't swivel it all the way around because I knew it would make it harder for you all to see it that way. So I'm just tilting it, and I'm keeping it upright as much as I can here. Although I do have to apologize for the lighting. It's becoming overexposed, and I'm not sure why it's doing that. I have two lights on my table here, one on the top and one on the right, and it seems that when I'm moving, it's affecting the iPhone's recording, and it's making it bleached out with light like that. But anyway, at least you can still see me painting. So as you can see here, I'm removing paint from this little swirl here, and all I'm doing is I'm wetting my brush, tapping off the paint, wetting the brush, like scraping off the paint, and I just keep going back in and scraping it off, and there I grab some more water and go back in, scrape some more off, and then soon I'm gonna put a little bit of that yellow over that area, and it just makes it glow. So that's the usefulness of a glaze. You see, I brought that area out because I want it to be sort of 3D and be in the foreground, and then eventually put a little bit of a yellow glaze over that area, and it just really makes it pop. Now what I'm doing is I'm going around and lifting out light spots and creating more dark spots as per the 3D ribbon aspect of it. So as you can see, I made that top part of the ribbon light and the bottom part dark, and I'm just going in and softening edges. Actually, you know, as things dry, there can be some sort of harsh edges, and now I'm going in, like I said before, and darkening up those shadows, and that will really emphasize the 3D aspect of the ribbons and the bee. I'm also going around and fixing up any lines that are uneven and scrubbing them into place, basically. Some are too fat and too thin, and I'm just sort of tweaking those lines. Okay, I've zoomed up on this area here, and I'm actually making a mistake of sorts, because you see that area, that big swoosh is supposed to be gold, so there's no reason I should be painting this in there right now. But at the time, I thought, oh look, I made a mistake. I just didn't draw in the area, and that's a result of me being so focused and such a meditative state of doing art that I didn't even think that, you see how the ribbon is, that's all going to be gold, that whole big bottom part that swooshes out to the left, and there's no reason for me to be painting in those little areas there. So I discovered that in the end though. And it actually doesn't matter because it's going to be covered up. But see right here, this area I'm painting here, but I wasn't logically thinking at the time. I was totally in my right hemisphere of the brain. Okay, we're getting into the final touches, and I'm again taking off some green. As I'm doing this, I'm stripping the green off and then dabbing it with my cloth, taking some more water, going over the area. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm creating a light area where there's not much green, where as I paint over the yellow, it will glow. So you see this yellow-green color I'm using is the Magellan Mission yellow-green, and it just has that really luminous quality to it, just like the opera pink has. It's almost glowing. The problem is I don't think it's fully probably light fast. Could be though, I'm not sure. I'd have to check on that. But I'm just doing a glaze over the areas that are light, and what will happen is the dark will shine through in the dark areas still, and the light areas will just stay light. You see, I'm just glazing over all those areas to bring out the glow. Okay, so we're coming to the very end. I'm just putting on the last highlights and lowlights, which are those shadows there that I'm deepening up. And here's just a pan over of the last of the final bee before the next step. So be sure to stay tuned to part 5, and I will show you how to gild this letter. Thanks for watching, and drop me a like and subscribe if you care to. Thank you. Have a great day.